Hello, my name is Michael Belasco from Blue Fool Games, and I proudly present Clockwork Renaissance, the game that has you racing to recreate the inventions of Leonardo da Vinci. This game is meant for 2 to 5 players and runs from 30 to 90 minutes. It is a set collection game with aspects of cooperation and take-that mechanics, but the greatest aspect of the game is the interlocking gear mechanic. The game board is set up as a collection of interlocking, moving gears, which all turn in sync during certain parts of the game. This also causes the relative player positions to change, and may help or hinder the player's ability to reach the resources they need. Other than the board itself, players move from space to space by drawing movement cards, which range from 1 to 3 spaces. The rotation and burst symbols indicated on the cards do not affect player movement yet. Players each hold 4 cards at the beginning of their turn, so they can plan out their movements in advance. Other than the gears, the main components of the game are the archive plans. As the player, you start the game by entering the first gear, the archive gear, where you select one of Leonardo's sketches for your project. Each archive plan lists the tools, materials, and engineer specialties you'll need to build your machine. Each plan lists 3 specialties, which can be found in the engineer tokens, tool requirements, which can be found in the tool gear, and build materials, which can be found on the material gear. You can collect these resources in any order. On the engineer gear, you move to one of the recruitment locations and randomly draw an engineer from the purple bag. Each engineer will have 2 specialties, and you need 3 specialties for your build. You can only hold 2 engineers token at once, so you need to search for the right combination of engineers. Discarded tokens are left on the playing field. On the tool gear, you have to collect 2 tools shown on your build plan, drawing them from the tan bag. Again, you can only carry 2 tools at once, so discarded tokens are left on the playing field. On the material gear, there are 5 material locations and a 6th choice location that lets you determine which material you want to gather. There is no limit on the types or amount of materials you can gather, but you need at least 6 of each material on your build plan. It's recommended to carry some spare build materials, since they could be useful later. On the board, you will also find spaces that can affect gameplay, specifically the Vitruvian symbol and the patron cards. The Vitruvian symbol causes the player to randomly turn the board control gear, with the distance and direction determined by drawing the top movement card. This is when the rotation symbol is used. The patron cards are game-altering influences awarded by the nobles watching the competition. When a player lands on a patron card location, they draw 1 or 2 cards and follow the instructions listed on the cards. Cards can affect the movements of the gears, the collection of resources, or the interaction of the players. Most patron cards can be saved and used whenever the player chooses. Once you have collected all of the engineers, tools, and materials you need to complete your build, you can enter the assembly gear at the end of the room. Here, you must work your way around to the top space and enter the build space. On this space, you turn in your engineers and tools, and 6 of each required material, and assemble your machine. You now must ride your machine back to the entrance of the room. Before your first movement on your machine, players must swap out any of their movement cards with a burst symbol on it for symbols without it. From this point forward, the burst symbol indicates that a part of your machine is broken down and needs to be replaced. The burst symbol does not affect the board gear movements. If you made sure to bring spare required materials for your machine, you can discard one of those materials and continue moving like normal. If you do not have any spare build materials, however, you must step off of your machine and travel on foot to the material gear and replenish your supply of materials. Hopefully your machine didn't move too far away while you were gone. You can now return to your machine and repair it, and continue moving towards the exit on your next turn. While walking apart from your machine, as in the beginning, burst symbols will not affect you, and must be traded out again when you're back on your machine. The race back to the entrance can feel like a whole other game. With each player's potential ability to control the position of the board, it can be very difficult for a player in the lead to stay in the lead. While the early players start working back towards the front of the room, slower players can control the turning of the gears while they finish collecting their resources and attempt to reach the assembly gear themselves. In the end, the turning of a gear can make the difference between winning and losing.